Welcome, Swagatam, Jai Hind. In this video, we examine two different types of leadership because the question of leadership is so important for the health and sanity of a democratic system of governance. Democracy is distinguished by the freedom of choice it confers on citizens, but that freedom of choice can either be a blessing or a bane, depending on whether or not we have the wisdom to exercise our freedom aright. The bottom line of that wisdom is knowledge, clarity of understanding. And the purpose of this video is to provide some conceptual clarity regarding leadership so that we can exercise our freedom of choice in a wise, responsible, and meaningful fashion. In the interest of brevity and clarity, let me say that there are broadly two types or categories of leaders. To put it as simply as I can, these two types may be denoted as follows. One type that is in love with an object or a thing, the other that is completely absorbed in an idea. Fix it very clearly because this contrast is very important. One type of leaders, they'll all be obsessed with a particular object. And let me make it very clear right away that object is the chair. The chair symbolizes power. Power leads to profit. So ultimately, the only consideration, the only motivation for leaders of this kind is to attain seats of power because that then operates as a key to all kinds of other possibilities. Now, they would certainly be projecting themselves as the selfless, dedicated servants of the people, the custodians of the welfare and the destiny of the country, pure manifestations of patriotism, etc., etc. But from their actions, policies, and priorities, it's very easy to see that what really drives them is their addiction to power, simply because they know that power opens the door to all kinds of other possibilities. So here, love professed for the people is a pretense. The reality is that it hides this naked lust for power. That's the first type. The second type, unfortunately, members of this tribe or this kind of leadership are becoming very, very few in our times. They are not obsessed with or driven by objects or gains or advantages. They're completely absorbed in an idea. Each person will be absorbed in an idea. For example, to make matters clear, let's take an example far away from politics so that the objectivity of my reflection with you can be easily understood. Think of Gautama Buddha, Lord Buddha. He was Prince Siddhartha. What accounts for the transformation from Prince Siddhartha to Gautama Buddha? It is the complete absorption of this prince in an idea. The idea of world liberation, liberation of humankind from their miserable, entrapped existence in this world of dukkha, in this world of suffering. Sharing with everyone in that plight the good news, the redemption or moksha from this miserable state is possible. And in order to attain that redemption, this is the path that you can possibly follow. So all of the life of Prince Siddhartha was completely absorbed in this one idea. It's the idea that transformed Prince Siddhartha into Lord Buddha. Now, if you were to examine the lives and personality of people whom humanity cherishes across the centuries and across all national barriers, you will find the same principle. Take Gandhi, for example. He handed himself over, he abandoned himself completely to the pursuit of an idea. Gandhi became an idea, the idea of the liberation of India. As he defined himself in an article published in the Harijan in 1937, he said, I am an instrument in the hand of God to lead the people of India to freedom. All that Mahatma Gandhi did, the struggles that he undertook, struggles first against himself and then against external realities, the privations that he suffered, the discipline that he maintained, the tireless efforts that he made, everything can be comprehended, everything can be summarized in one word: idea. I, capital idea. That idea becomes larger than the individual. And Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru understood something similar to this. And therefore, he said in one of his speeches, he said as follows, and I'm recollecting his words. He said, we are all small people, but the cause that we serve is great. And because the cause we serve is great, something of its greatness falls over, touches us and transforms us. Again, something very similar. So if you really look into the greatness of any human being who has become part and parcel of the universal heritage of human greatness, you will find that there were invariably people who were completely absorbed in the pursuit and realization of one overwhelming idea. And that idea is much, much larger than a chair, kisa kursi ka, or this low cunning game of power, capturing power and manipulating power to whatever gain, etc. So much so, they come to realize that they're nothing but an idea. That's why Mahatma Gandhi said, my message is my life, and my life is my message. That's a complete identification between the individual and the idea. This degree of identification, a person in the first category that I have already mentioned can never attain. He tries to be one with the chair, but it's unnatural because the chair is made of a material object. You can never be one with the material object unless you become lifeless. And therefore, your relationship with the kursi or the chair is always unstable, which makes the incumbent in a chair perpetually anxious, insecure. The reason why power breeds intolerance and the desire to crush dissent or any distant threat to one's security in the chair, all of which actually desecrates the very personality of the person who occupies the chair without his knowing it. He thinks that he's great, achieving something great, but day by day, his very attempts to secure and protect himself destroys his dignity and devalues his personality. So, this is the contrast I commend to you. Either you can choose a person who is so completely addicted to the chair that he'll stoop to any level in order to perpetuate himself in that chair, and he will not let his conscience or the universal norms of appropriate or dignified human behavior or any religious or spiritual restraint to come in the way, even ideological restraint to come in the way. For him, the absolute priority is self perpetuation in a particular office or in a particular chair. In the second instance, the chair doesn't matter at all. In fact, people in the second category think of the chair as a liability because an idea is incompatible with any material encumbrance. Can you think of Lord Buddha moving around like the American president or Indian prime minister? A huge retinue with all kinds of baggage. Lord Buddha allowed himself and his disciples only 3 pairs of clothes and the very, very basic things, absolutely basic things. For example, a begging bowl. There is a story that when Lord Buddha was getting on in life, a doctor insisted that he should cover his body better and use a good enough, large enough piece of cloth for the purpose. Till then, he was managing with the barest minimum. He reluctantly agreed, but he said that every member of the Sangha, the community, must have the same facility. He will not have anything that other members of the community cannot have. That's the sign of a person who is absorbed in an idea. Or there is another story that when the Buddha was unwell and a relative of his created a headscarf for himself, he refused. He refused to wear it unless the same is supplied to every member of the Sangha. Buddham Sharanam Gacchami, Sangam Sharanam Gacchami. Sangam. When is it that a person attains that degree of absolutely sincere, truthful identification with the Sangam, with the group, with the community, as far as the country is concerned, the community is India as a whole? Imagine having a leader who says, like Gandhi did, that I will not have a facility or a means of comfort which is not available to the people at large. Why did Mahatma Gandhi become the naked fakir of India in the pejorative words of Winston Churchill? Because for him, that idea was far more important than all the material amenities put together, all the chairs in the world put together, all the great offices in the world put together. That is the hallmark of one who is completely absorbed in an idea. It is this absorption in an idea that makes a person great. Whereas addiction to a chair makes a person more and more mean day by day. He may resort to all kinds of tactics, strategies, devious ways of promoting himself and enhancing his image, etc., etc. And thousands of people will be working on it. It's a big industry today. But all that will not help. The truth will be out. And sooner or later, the people will realize that the person who has been trying to inflict his importance on them was, after all, a very ordinary human being, a person of clay, and that all the great ideas being floated about him was a mere delusion, manufactured and perpetuated or propagated with ulterior intent. Actually, if you have some greatness in you, you don't have to advertise it. No one with a spark of greatness in him would ever want to advertise his greatness or make a public display of it. So this you can remember very easily, that the true essence, the seed of human greatness, is the self-transcending capacity to be completely absorbed in that idea, and therefore the willingness to dedicate one's life in its totality to the pursuit and realization of that idea. Now, here I have to say that by idea with a capital I mean something that transcends all local and national distinctions, and something that pertains to the essence of humanity itself. Something that is valid for the whole of humankind. That's the idea. Anything less than that is not an idea. For example, freedom is an idea. Human dignity is an idea. The, the perfectibility of the human species is an idea. The establishment of a society based on liberty, equality, fraternity is an idea. It's not a chair. You cannot reduce liberty or equality or fraternity to a chair. And therefore, people who are addicted to chairs will never respect your liberty. They will never accept equality. They will always reject fraternity. In fact, the VVIP culture, which has become a public nuisance, is a ritualistic, elaborately, publicly enacted rejection of the very idea of fraternity. The VVIP culture says, between you and us, we who sit in seats of power, or we who constitute the community of power, we are a class far superior to you, therefore you cannot even come anywhere near us. If we travel on the roads, all of you must get lost, disappear. Now, Mahatma Gandhi would never say that. Lord Buddha would never say that. Jesus Christ would never say that. Unfortunately, this distinction is completely lost on us. And therefore, we have now reached a state of mental, ethical, spiritual degeneration, wherein we think that the person who inflicts his self-importance most painfully upon us, the person who causes maximum discomfort, inconvenience, and loss and suffering to us, the person who with one word can cause our world to turn upside down, he is the greatest leader. He is a great man. Whereas if you follow the norm I have given to you, you'll realize that the truth is exactly the opposite. So given this perspective, so far I was trying to give a perspective. Now, given this perspective, let me now raise a question. Who are the political leaders that I value most? And before I enter into that, let me say this to you. None of you is obliged to accept my view. All I'm trying to do is, now that I've given the theory of it, let me apply it to myself. You can apply it to yourself freely. There is no inhibition, no restraint, no conditions, no strings attached. The two politicians in India today that I value and respect most, I'll name them in the order of priorities, as far as I'm concerned, is Rahul Gandhi and Prashant Kishore. Rahul Gandhi and Prashant Kishore. They are in opposite camps, but in spite of that, party difference doesn't mean a thing to me. I'm free to recognize human greatness wherever I find it. Even though they are in two different camps, I think fundamentally they are one. And therefore, if my logic holds, the day is not far off when the logic of the situation will compel them to come together and work together. But that's another issue. What is the common factor between Rahul Gandhi and Prashant Kishore? Precisely what I've said a short while ago. Both of them are completely absorbed in the ideas that they pursue. As far as Rahul Gandhi is concerned, the idea that he's pursuing is the need to substitute a culture or a political culture of hatred and violence with a counterculture of the politics of love and caring for the ordinary people. And he frames it within the Constitution of India. But that is the value substance of the Constitution, and Rahul Gandhi is absolutely right. In fact, in the past, Rahul Gandhi has been ridiculed for his reluctance to accept positions of importance. He could have been the Prime Minister of India. You would recall that in 2009, Manmohan Singh repeatedly pleaded with Rahul Gandhi to become the Prime Minister of India. Circumstances were absolutely favorable, had he desired, indicated the slightest desire of that kind, he would have been the Prime Minister. And people ridiculed him, saying that he is one who does not have the courage and the boldness, the inner strength to accept responsibilities. That was a complete misinterpretation. Rahul Gandhi has since then proved that he is a person of great inner strength. I challenge any other political leader in this country to go through what Rahul Gandhi has done, not merely the prolonged, painful experience of being ridiculed left, right, and center. A whole industry focused on ridiculing Rahul Gandhi and showing him down in the eye of the people. The mightiest effort, most elaborately orchestrated effort ever made in the history of politics in this country. But also the strength to face repeated electoral debacles and still remain totally committed, letting nothing, no setback, to discourage him and dispirit him from the pursuit of the goal that he has embraced. As Prashant Kishore himself said in one of the interviews, and you can see that on the YouTube, he says, this is a rare kind of strength. And I can tell you that that strength does not come simply because a person is in himself very bold and courageous. It can come only from that state of complete absorption in an idea. When a person thinks that the idea that is embraced and the idea for which he wants to live is far more important than himself, and therefore, if he has to lay down his life in the realization of that idea, so be it. That's the meaning of courage. This courage is not indifference to death. This courage is absolute commitment to an ideal or an idea. The same thing I find in Prashant Kishore. Think of Prashant Kishore. He was making crores, as he himself revealed, in the 3 years before he entered politics, which was 3 years ago. Out of the work he did for various political parties and industrialists, he earned a fee of 241 crores of rupees. Can you imagine? What is the income that Prashant Kishore earned out of sharing his expertise with political parties? 241 crores in 3 years alone. So approximately 80 crores per year was his income. He had no need to enter the dirty field of politics or the field of dirty politics. Why did he give up his lucrative practice and go to Bihar of all places and embed himself, plant himself there? And for the last 3 years, he has been working day in and out tirelessly, 24/7, visiting every village, interacting with people of every kind, selling them a dream. The dream that Bihar can be different, the dream that the potential of Bihar can be unlocked to an astonishing extent. And what I love about this man is the extent to which he has completely, utterly dedicated himself to that task. Because there are many people who revel in ridiculing him as well. The Godi media in particular has taken upon itself the great duty to ridicule Prashant Kishore and to show him down in the eye of the people. So notice that, again, this is a common factor between Rahul Gandhi and Prashant Kishore. So long as Prashant Kishore was useful to various political parties, including the BJP, after all, he was the main strategist for Modi in the 2014 elections. At that time, he was a priceless wealth, priceless asset. Now, the very same parties reviling him, ridicule him, laughing at him, just as Rahul Gandhi was ridiculed. So, now we must understand the meaning of this ridicule. When a political party or an ideological bloc ridicules a person in such a determined, concentrated, orchestrated fashion for such a long period of time, it means that there is a symbolic and ideological opposition between those who ridicule the person and the person who is ridiculed. In fact, the people who ridicule consider the person they ridicule as their greatest threat. In other words, the ridicule that they shower on this person is, if you're intelligent to recognize, the greatest acknowledgement of the incomparable relevance, the worth, and the merit of this leader. If he was not a threat, why ridicule him? Nobody ridicules a dog on the street. Nobody ridicules a nitwit. People simply ignore them. Why is it that the Sangh Parivar, the BJP, are getting obsessed with and remaining obsessed with Rahul Gandhi for such a long period of time? And why are they now getting obsessed with Prashant Kishore? For the reason that these two leaders in the political landscape of India constitute the most significant ideological hindrance and opposition to what the Sangh Parivar, BJP, Modi, Amit Shah camp represent. That's why I say that we must recognize the contrast between these two completely incompatible models of leadership as clearly as possible. We have to recognize that this is a reality and that the destiny of India will be played out through this interface between these two incompatible models of leadership. And I hope and pray that the people of India would be educated and wise enough to recognize these two categories and realize as to where exactly their long-term interests would lie. And therefore, on the basis of that, use their freedom of choice in a responsible, meaningful fashion, which would be an act of pure patriotism. And anything less than this, that is, using this precious freedom of choice, which is the very lifeblood of democracy, in an indifferent, irresponsible manner, unmindful of what India will be on account of the choices that they make, would be a very unfortunate thing, and they would be betraying this country as a whole. And every person who refuses to recognize the duty to exercise this very cherished freedom of choice in a manner that is appropriate to it is actually letting India down. That is something we do not want to do. We love this country. Jai Hind.